Doing today? Hopefully you are doing well. I want to dive in with you on the topic of how to get better with no, N-O. But more specifically, right? More specifically, how to get better in situations where someone's asking you, right, for something, some sort of favor, and you're trying to say no to them, but their reaction to your no just rubs you in a way where you fold and you end up saying yes. And then you're like, shit, why did I say yes? I'm working on no. I'm doing all of these counseling sessions with my clinician, and it's all about building the power of no. And then I folded in that moment. What took place? So that's what I want to dive in with you. And I want to use like a narrative, right? So let's imagine that we've got Bob. I use that name a lot. And Bob is working on saying no. He's working to build power and strength and empowerment with his ability to tell people no. The big N-O. And then he finds himself in a situation, right? There's a friend of his named Sarah. And Sarah reaches out. And in the past, years and years and years, right? They've got a pretty long relationship. Sarah reached out for different things. Help me move. Help me this. I need a ride for work. Can I get $10? Can you give me some coffee today? Right? Just all sorts of different things. And Bob will say yes. Right? So over time, Bob became yes man. Almost like the movie. I think there's a movie on that. And then Bob is finding himself in a situation where he feels like he's being taken advantage of. He feels that he gives everyone else all these favors and they don't give him favors. He feels that he always says yes, and to the best of his ability, he remembers that a lot of times people tell him no. The same people tell him no is the people that he tells yes to. So Bob is frustrated, aggravated. He's on edge. He's like, I've had enough of this SHIT. However, right, Bob is having a hard time with sticking to no. So then during this interaction, Sarah says, hey, I need a favor. Can you do XYZ for me? And then Bob digs deep, right? He digs deep. He finds that lion strength. And he goes, you know what? I can't do it. I've got a couple of things lined up, so I'm not going to be able to. And as Bob says it, maybe he's feeling exactly what you feel when you tell other people no. His heart rate starts to go a little bit faster and faster. His hands get sweaty. He's shaking, trembling a little bit. He feels on edge. He doesn't feel fully stable. Doesn't feel the full himself. And he feels that way maybe for the same reason that you feel whenever you are in situations that you're trying to tell somebody no. And then time almost slows down like the Matrix. The words leave Bob's mouth. And then he sees the words almost like in a comic strip, right? He sees the words come out. And then Sarah grabs those words. And then something takes place, right? One of two things takes place. Sarah's able to grab those words and she's able to process them in a very healthy way. She's able to go, well, you know what? I really appreciate you telling me no. I want to check with you first, but it's all good if you got things going on. Again, thank you for letting me know. I'm going to go check with somebody else now. Right? Well, and that'd be awesome. That would be so supportive. She responded that way. And then the alternative is, right, the other one is, and you're probably guessing, is where Sarah goes, come on, man. I mean, what do you have lined up? I really need you right now. Can you be here for me? Can you do me a favor? Right? And what's happening is, right, we're watching this movie of Bob and Sarah. And what's happening is that Sarah's nudging, she's pushing. Sarah's having a hard time in her own independent life based on her upbringing. She's struggling with acknowledging and accepting no. And acknowledging that no is not bad. No is not a bad thing. It's okay for people to tell you no. But in that moment, she doesn't want to hear no. And maybe she doesn't want to hear no, but because it's been years that Bob said yes. And people generally don't like change. So right now, Bob's changing the game. And Sarah's pushing back. So then when Sarah pushes back, right, when she's nudging and she's saying, come on, Bob, I really need you in this moment, this time of need. Bob starts to feel a little more anxious, a little more wary, if you will. Pushing on him, he's getting tired. He feels like he's getting broken down. He's getting closer to the edge of folding. Almost like in a game of poker. He's ready to fold. Feels like he doesn't have a good hand. But let's just say that Bob doesn't fold. Let's say Bob sticks to his guns. And then he goes, I really can't. I'm sorry. And then Sarah accepts it. Let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about why it happened. And I shared with you a lot of what took place and why it took place based off of the way that we think, based off of anxiety and worry and other symptoms in there shared. What's also important to know is that, as Bob leaves those words, right? He says no, or he says I can't, and they come out like a comic strip, and Sarah grabs them. There's something really important that sometimes our upbringing doesn't tell us, doesn't share with us. What's happening is that Bob has to find himself in a position where he steps away and he says, you know what, Sarah's going to have her own reaction. And her reaction is based upon her and her upbringing and her life story and how she interprets and processes my words. Because at the end of the day, right, from a very rational perspective, Bob has full authority, right? He has a strong foundation. He is able to say no as he is able to say yes. So then, if we acknowledge that what's really happening is that Sarah is struggling with hearing no. Sarah's having a hard time giving Bob space to be able to say no. And because she's having a hard time, for whatever reasons, right? For whatever reasons, it could be upbringing, it could be she grew up in a certain home where, it's more yeses and nos, right? Or she's more of a bulldog, so she pushes. Or it could be the obvious one that for years Bob said yes, and all of a sudden he's trying to play a different game and he wants to say no, so she's pushing against it. Right? It's important for Bob to acknowledge that Sarah is going to have her own reaction to what I said, and that reaction is that of her own. And I must do my best. I have to do my best. I'm going to work to do my best to allow Sarah to have her reaction, and then for me to continue to acknowledge what do I want to do here based upon what I want to do, what I feel comfortable, my boundaries, my self-respect, my self-worth, not interconnected to what's happening and what she's saying, right? Because in that alternative I shared with you, where Sarah's just kind of going back and she's saying, I want you to say yes, right? She's pushing him. If Bob folds in there, that's going to go in the wrong direction. He's going to say yes, and then throughout the day he's going to feel pretty low because he didn't stick to his guns. So it's important for us to acknowledge that, because I think once we're able to kind of bring that in here into our mindset, it shifts the way that we interact with ourselves and how we interact with other people in society. Maybe you could find yourself, today or tomorrow practicing that. Think about the next time you're in a situation where someone asks for something, and let's say that you do not want to say yes, right? You've already got things lined up. You cannot say yes. It'll be an extremely overwhelming day if you say yes and add this to your to-do list. So then in that moment when you say no, what I want you to try to do is I want you to think about what happens after you say no. Imagine you're a fly on the wall and the person says no, you're that person. I want you to focus on what the other person's doing. Think about how they are taking in the no, processing it, and then what they deliver to you. See if they deliver something really effective with kindness, such as, well, I really appreciate you letting me know. Thank you. I hope you have a good rest of the day. I'm going to check with some other people now. Right? Great feedback. Or see if they kind of go in a different direction where they don't like your no and they keep pushing and pushing. They try to break that boundary that you put up. Overall, what this does is this helps us, this entire conversation that we're having, it helps us visualize how to become more effective in the process of saying no, how to become more effective in the process of understanding that people, right, external to you, will have their own reaction, because they will process things in the way that they see, life. Each of us, we have our eyes, or we have our lens, if you say, at least in like the clinical world, we'll use the word lens. Lens is how you see things and then how you interpret those things. And in the way that you see things and the way that you interpret things create some sort of reaction. Every individual has their own independent methodology for that. And that's why it's so important for us when we build skill and being able to say no. We do take time to do independent work, but we also acknowledge how interactions take place and then how much of the interaction is over there, part of their control, versus over here. So I do hope that this was helpful. I hope that, you're walking away and you're like, yes, I'm about to do some more NOs today. And, no is not just about pushing people away. No is about you sticking to your boundaries. You sticking to your schedule. So sometimes we have things lined up on our to-do list. One of those could be self-care, take a nap, or go for a walk. And then someone asks, for something, and we erase our self-care. And then we put their thing in there. And then at 9 o'clock at night, we find ourselves kicking ourselves on the butt and go, man, I'm super overwhelmed. I wish I would have done my self-care. That's a good example to acknowledge why it's important, for us to build skill and being able to say no. Thank you for taking time to listen. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. It was helpful to you in life. If so, let me know. Subscribe, join the channel, share this with all your friends and family that you think would find help and support in this channel. Take care. Have a beautiful